Coming up on Network Africa. United Nations World Food Programme warns of increasing hunger in 13 hotspots around the world, including Sudan, South Sudan and Mali. President Bola Tinubu to visit Benue State in north-central Nigeria as part of efforts to address the conflict affecting communities. Plus, Malian government places Canadian gold mine operation under provisional administration for 6 months. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. We begin with a warning from the United Nations about rising hunger in several conflict-ridden regions. A joint report by the World Food Programme and the Food and Agriculture Organization highlights Sudan, South Sudan and Mali as territories facing imminent risk of starvation and death. Nearly 25 million people in Sudan face acute food insecurity amid the ongoing conflict between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces fueling displacements. The WFP's Director of Food Security and Nutrition Analysis, Jean-Martin Bauer, says a conflict is the main driver of the crisis as vulnerable communities lose access to food markets and assistance. In Mali, high grain prices and ongoing conflict are eroding the coping capacities of the most vulnerable households, particularly in conflict-affected area. Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burkina Faso, Chad and Yemen are also flagged as hotspots. However, Ethiopia, Kenya, Lebanon, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Niger, Zambia and Zimbabwe have been removed from the hunger hotspots list.
This is the main driver of crisis. We identified 5 countries or territories of highest concern. This is Sudan, South Sudan, Palestine, Mali, and Haiti. And conflict is driving very high levels of acute food insecurity. That's why we highlight these places. There's an ongoing famine in Sudan and also a risk of famine in the case of Gaza. And all of those are driven by conflict and lack of access for humanitarians. Over the next few months, we're very concerned about the reduction in humanitarian funding, which will lead to a decline in assistance. That means smaller rations and reduced numbers of people receiving much-needed humanitarian assistance in some of the world's most vulnerable countries.
Let's shed more light on the issue. Joining me now is our Sahel correspondent. He joins us from Burkina Faso. Mo, pleasure having you on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Sudan is one of the 5 countries on the UN list that's facing imminent risk of starvation and death. What does daily life look like right now, or for ordinary Sudanese people living in the affected regions?
Well, one thing one must understand is that Sudan has been classified right now as the only country in the world that is facing a famine. The ordinary Sudanese is torn between, very difficult lifestyle. On the one hand, from the west, the Darfur area of Sudan, which consists of 5 states, is part of the long-suffering set of areas in the world where fighting over the last 10, 20 years has displaced millions of people. Right now, more than 25 million people in Sudan are facing starvation. That's about half of the population. And from the east, near the Red Sea, the temporary headquarters or the temporary capital of Sudan, that is Port Sudan, there has been an increase in the fighting over there too. So people in Sudan are caught between a rock and a hard place. Hospitals are not operating really well. There is only one hospital catering for children in the whole of Khartoum. It's a very difficult situation, I must say.
And we know that the United Nations has given warnings, but are there any international responses that could alleviate Sudan's hunger crisis?
Well, access into any part of Sudan is a very difficult thing. As I said earlier, initially from Port Sudan, aid used to be ferried into the central part of the country and even all the way to Darfur in the west through the airport in Port Sudan and through the port. But since the rebels started attacking Port Sudan using drones, that route itself has been closed down. Sometimes the World Food Program makes an effort to send food through South Sudan and through Chad, but those are the most dangerous parts of Sudan right now. There is virtually no way to get any significant amount of food or medicines into Sudan. It's a very dire situation.
Right, and has there been any recent progress at all in getting humanitarian assistance to displaced communities, apart from the picture you're painting of Sudan, but there are other adjoining countries that are also facing such dire situations?
Well, organizations like the World Food Program, the United Nations has, classified Sudan as the world's largest humanitarian crisis that no one is talking about. Basically, Sudan seems to have been forgotten because of other conflicts affecting other parts of the world, Palestine, Ukraine, to mention a few. But there are several organizations inside and outside Sudan that have been making efforts. An example is the soup kitchens that exist in virtually every city in Sudan right now. Every city, every urban area you go to, there are soup kitchens where people band together, bring in food, prepare the food, and then hundreds of people, sometimes leading up to 1,000, sometimes in certain areas. You notice these people lining up daily to get this Arabian flatbread and some soup for their families. This is the only thing that is going on right now, but concerted efforts have failed over time due to, as I said, conflict in the areas surrounding Sudan. South Sudan itself is in conflict. In Chad, in the eastern part of Chad, there are a lot of problems because Chad is also an actor in the conflict in Sudan right now. The Sudanese military is blaming Chad for, as they said, funding the rebels that are fighting the Sudanese government in the Darfur area or in the Darfur region. So it's a very difficult situation, as I said, and more needs to be done to get help into Sudan. Much needed help, I must say.
Right. Interestingly, Nigeria is also named as one of the hot spots of this hunger crisis, alongside some other states in Africa. What does this mean for the country?
Nigeria and many countries along that route from Nigeria, you've got northern Cameroon and Chad, and then Sudan. It's like a corridor where a lot of things, seem to have, there's a synergy of action happening because the peoples of this region are actually connected in many ways that we can only begin to imagine. But the hunger and starvation and the famine that is affecting all these regions we're talking about, including Nigeria, specifically are targeted by conflict. And you can agree with me that Nigeria, the northern part of the country, northeast and northwest, is now racked by insurgency and banditry. And that has stopped farmers, going out to the fields to plant their crops and to harvest them. And this is the reason why Nigeria has been classified as one of the countries facing these dangers that we're talking about in food production. And as I said, more needs to be done.
Right, Mo, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
Moving on now, we're in Nigeria and in the north central. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has announced that he'll be visiting Benue State in north central to renew efforts to foster peace and address the persistent conflict affecting communities in the state. Ahead of his visit, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kaide Agbetukun, has also affirmed the federal government's commitment to contain the killings in Benue State and bring the perpetrators to justice. When Mr. Agbetukun disclosed this at a meeting with the Benue State Governor, Hyacinth Alia, at the Government House, where he reiterated President Bola Tinubu's worries over recent killings in the state. Reacting to his visit, Governor Alia appreciates the efforts of the president and security agencies, but lamented the surge of attacks on vulnerable communities, which she appealed for strategies that will keep Benue residents safe.
The Inspector General of Police is in the company of Governor Hyacinth Alia as he arrives at the old banquet hall of the Government House, Makurdi, where security chiefs receive him. He gets down to business as he gives assurance that the police is working with other security agencies to ensure justice for victims of the recent attacks in the state.
Your Excellency, these mindless acts of terror are not just attacks on Benue State. They are attacks on the sovereignty and integrity of our nation. We are going to continue to work tirelessly with you and in close synergy with other security agencies to ensure that peace, lasting peace, return to Benue State.
He further states President Bola Tinubu's concerns on the attacks, describing them as attacks on Nigeria's territorial integrity.
I'm sure, Your Excellency, you have spoken with Mr. President on this incident. You have known how saddened Mr. President was on hearing the news of a fresh attack on another vulnerable community in Benue State, and his commitment to ensure that this reign of impunity by criminal gangs and terror elements end in our country.
Responding, Governor Hyacinth Alia applauds the federal government for promptly deploying additional troops to Benue State and asks that the resurgence in boundary communities be contained.
Thank you for standing up for us and assuring us of your continued support. We are bleeding. We are in sorrow. I believe your visit is going to uplift our spirits and build within us formidable assurance of the fact that we are not alone and you continue to be there for us and to support and to do this journey together with us.
The IGP then leaves for the scene of attacks in Yelwata to see things for himself. On arrival, Mr. Agbetukun and Governor Alia joined the Chief of Defense Staff, who had arrived earlier to assess the level of destruction. Some of the eyewitnesses share their stories.
Fulani herdsmen came in around the Yelwata East, started firing gunshots. They fired for almost 5 hours. They met a stiff resistance here from the police. Immediately when they met the resistance, they moved towards Yelwata Market, Yelwata New Market. There they slaughtered more than 100 persons.
My family members affected, they are 5 in numbers. My wife, brother, and 4 children.
The IGP then calls for community collaboration with the troops to end the killings.
A day will come when these bandits will come to operate as they used to, and they will never return. That day is drawing nearer. I can assure you that we are committed to fight this battle and win this war. My appeal to the community is to cooperate with us. They know their environment more than anyone else.
The residents consider this visit a critical step in efforts to stop the killings in the area.
We're off on a break now. Malian President Assimi Goïta launches new gold refinery, calling it a pivotal step to reclaim economic sovereignty. We'll also have more on the attacks on the Benue, and we have an analyst with us to discuss the issues. All these in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. African Affairs analyst Okwe Okpala joins us now via Zoom from Lagos State to talk more about the crisis in Benue, in Nigeria's north-central region. A pleasure having you on the program today.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure to be with you.
Right. So, what do you think, first of all, is fueling the crisis in Benue State?
Well, I think is where would the president of President Muhammadu Buhari called it header-farmer clash, but then it's not a clash at all. What I'm seeing is a land grab. There are people, some say they are not Nigerians, they are actually terrorists from other countries who appear as herdsmen, carrying guns, but have a plan to settle in an area that is fertile. We have had a history of this. It started with Plateau State, Benue, moved back to Plateau, then Benue, sometimes Taraba. And government have not had answers to it. It's a bit surprising. So it is not necessarily, it's not a clash, it's not a quarrel. These are people who had a plan to commit genocide, to commit ethnic cleansing, and then probably to occupy their lands. And government should have a plan to counter their plan and make sure it doesn't happen.
Right, and President Bola Tinubu has announced his plans to go to Benue State. That's tomorrow. The point is to meet with the people and, to have meetings with community leaders, traditional leaders, security agencies, to address these problems. They believe, and others believe that it's community-based problems that need to be addressed, via the community. What kind of message do you think is hoping to send with this visit to Benue State?
Well, it's better late than never. The president has been accused by many of not showing enough empathy and not showing enough compassion. So many calamities have happened in Plateau, in Niger State, and in Benue several times, and the president have not risen to the occasion. But I'm happy that this time around, he wants to go there and see things by himself. And well, my word of advice is that the president should not surround himself with officials and military commanders alone, because these are people who are used to sycophancy, who are used to praising the president even when he's doing so badly. Let him engage with the real people, people who have suffered these losses, people who have borne the brunt of these attacks, and then get ideas exactly what is happening, because the wrong characterization of what is happening is also leading to government having the wrong approach to the issue. When the president was saying that governors should go and settle, it was as if there are two people quarreling over a small thing. No, it's a more serious thing like that. It's terrorism. And government, and again, president should also think of a more holistic approach to this. It's not just enough to begin to go to Benue State. Let him ask the heads of custom, the heads of immigration, how come governments and immigrants, armed herdsmen are crossing border and coming to Nigeria and moving unchecked? Customs are not just there to collect revenue. Immigration are not just there, and nobody has been sacked. There should be key performance indices that these people must reduce those, or drastically, those illegal people that are crossing into our country illegally, those who are carrying guns. But it doesn't appear that these are part of what they are.
Oh, seems to have frozen out. I don't know if you can still hear me, Okwe. I hear you, and I was just going to put that to you about how those people were crossing the borders of Nigerian borders into those communities where you believe that it's a land grabbing issue. But the president's visit there precedes his administration. When you first started talking, you talked about how President Muhammadu Buhari described the situation in Benue State in North Central and other states in the north where banditry and other forms of violence have taken over. I mean, why wasn't this addressed a long time ago?
Well, I think that's a wrong characterization. The wrong characterization of the issue. Like I said before, the previous government before this one characterized it as herder farmers conflict, and it didn't carry the seriousness that what we are witnessing is a domestic terrorism. In fact, with active international support. And so it was just like, and that was why I was worried again when the president said they should go and settle. We should live like the same family. No, this is beyond just quarreling people, two people quarreling. Even though it's not just two neighbors quarreling over land. Where is our border? These are people that come in, kill, and they escape, and with hope to occupy. So, I mean, I think that was why government has not addressed it before. But when government recognizes that this is what's happening, they will start addressing it both from the border, making sure that people don't come in, arms don't come in, they don't, and then that there is enough intelligence. Government intelligence is not just when to catch those who are trying to demonstrate against government, but indeed those who are trying to. Government should not prioritize regime security and the security of officials over the security of ordinary citizens. That is what is happening, and that's what many people are not happy about. Greater number of our security men are guarding politicians and their and government officials, and regime security has taken priority over security of the nation and security of the people of Nigeria. And that is what probably, the message I hope that the president will get when he interacts with the ordinary people. Because psychophancy, there's too much psychophancy in this government, and they are telling the government only what they want to hear. And when the president, who I know to be a Democrat, if he could interact with ordinary people, he will now hear from ordinary people, and we have the right analysis and the right diagnosis of the problem, and we apply the right medication or the right remedy.
Right. Aside from interacting with the people, what kind of meetings do you think the presidency should begin and security agencies should begin to have? You spoke about, porous borders. I know the IGP has been visiting Benue State. It's an internal issue. But, do you think greater emphasis should be placed on, as you rightly put it, the immigration service and others that are responsible for people for preventing people coming into the country illegally? What kind of meetings do you think should be put together going forward?
I believe that government should facilitate the meeting of security agencies and the local authorities, including the leaders, the leaders of the religious leaders and the traditional rulers. These are people who understand exactly what is happening. And then it was also, government should also give them, it's not just enough to say, give marching orders. You make sure that when the orders are not properly obeyed to the letter, there are consequences. It's better to change people when they don't get the result, and then know whether the next people will get the result, than keeping the same people who have been there and they are not achieving any result. The same set of commanders, the same set of army chiefs have been there, and this thing have been happening. I mean, it may not be their fault, but if I were the president, I will change them. They will start. I will know whether I will give a new target to a new people and know whether they will respond. And let them know that there will be consequences for non-performance. I mean, further, what we have seen from Buhari government coming to this government is that there is no consequence for non-performance. Politics is prioritized over performance. And that is why the nation is, both the security and the welfare of the people are taking the back seat.
Right. African Affairs Analyst Okuakwala, I must thank you for your time today on the program.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
We're moving on. We're in Mali now. The government has placed the Barrick Lulu Gunkoto gold mine under provisional administration for 6 months. The move transfers control of Canada's largest overseas operation to state-appointed management, escalating a long-running dispute between the company and Mali's military leaders. The disagreement centers on alleged unpaid taxes and contracts the government claims were unfairly agreed to by previous administrations. The decision comes after authorities shut down Barrick mine offices in the capital and issued an arrest warrant last year for the company's CEO. The CEO responded by offering $370 million and requesting arbitration, but the government has continued to take escalatory action on the issue. We're still in Mali, where the President, Assimi Goïta, has laid the foundation stone for a new gold refinery in Bamako. President Goïta said the refinery is a pivotal step to curbing the country's loss of revenue from exporting raw gold and reclaiming economic sovereignty. The refinery plant will be operated by Mali's Soroma SA in partnership with the Russian firm Yadran, where the Malian state will hold a 62% majority stake. President Goïta praised Russia's technical support and commitment to knowledge transfer. Mali exports its gold to countries like the UAE, South Africa, and Switzerland for refining. However, the president says this practice has cost the country substantial revenues that could drive economic development. This initiative follows key reforms after a mining sector audit at the Mali's 2021 National Refoundation Conference. That's Network Africa today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.